Hi, this is John and Heather. We're Tim, the Magic Brain Kids parents. And a lot of the questions that Tim got from you viewers were a little bit challenging for him to answer. So we're going to tackle some of those. This is probably more for parents of children with ACC or parents who are expecting children with ACC. But we hope that we'll be able to demystify some of this and make it a little bit less frightening for you. So Heather, what's the first question?
Okay, our first question are what were the physical things that were hard for Timmy?
Go ahead.
And we are going to start from the very beginning. We started therapy at 2 months old for Timmy. He had torticollis and had a hard time like reaching and grabbing things and crossing the midline, which is the middle part of your body. Go ahead.
He was very slow to roll.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't sit up until he was 8 or 9 months old.
He was 8 months old. He was 6 months before he rolled over.
Yep.
10 months before he started to crawl.
10 months.
Right around there. And
Oop, we're about to get a photo bomb.
Hi, Isaac.
Stick your head in there, baby.
There's baby Dino.
Hi, baby Dino. Okay.
Just as a quick mention, when we did start therapy at 2 months old, it was not with the advice of our doctor.
Right. The physicians felt that he was only 2 months old, so it didn't matter if he had therapy.
And he'll get there eventually, is what they kept telling us.
And we can tell you unequivocally that is the greatest decision that we ever made, was to start him at therapy right away. Because if we hadn't, who knows how long the delays would have built up to.
Exactly.
It took him so long as it was, and that was with therapy every week from the time he was 2 months old until he was 3.
Yes. He had weekly therapy until he was 3 years old, and then even then we did private therapy after he entered the school system, because we didn't quite feel that the school system was providing enough therapy to keep him on top of things.
Exactly. I think that covers all of the
he did start walking at 14 months.
Yes, he did walk at 14 months.
Because I know that's always a concern from some parents. He started walking at 14 months. For therapies, we started physical therapy at 2 months old. At approximately 4 months old, we started occupational therapy as well.
I think that's right.
Then we added in music therapy around 5 months.
And play therapy around that same time?
Play therapy we started around 6 or 7 months old. That one we kind of took breaks on and off from because we weren't very excited about our therapists. Parents, that's another tip. Do not be afraid to fire your therapist.
Right. Find the therapist.
Find the right therapist that works for you and your baby.
It doesn't matter what the recommendations are. It doesn't matter what the qualifications are. The right therapist will mesh with you and become a part of your family. So look for that, not for letters after a name.
Exactly. I think we fired 3 play therapists, 2 OTs.
At least 3 PTs.
And at least 3 PTs before we found ones that were a good fit for Timmy. And who seemed to understand him and us.
Right.
And it was the best thing that we did was to fire them as soon as we realized it wasn't working and not to drag it on.
And just remember, it's not a friendship. Mm-hmm. They are people who are there that you're paying for. So if you're not getting the service that you want, you should be.
Yes.
Do yourself that favor. Mm-hmm. All right, what's the next question?
Okay, the next question we kind of answered is, did Timmy have hypotonia? Yes, he did. He was a very floppy baby.
And that goes along with the torticollis, which is where the muscles in one side of the neck aren't as strong as the muscles on the other side. And so Tim was always doing this. He was kind of twisting his head. And it took months of therapy to correct that, but we did. And as far as the hypotonia goes, he will always have lower muscle tone than his peers, but it doesn't mean that he's not doing normal things. He's, right now he's in Taekwondo. He does all the belt testing, all the breaking of boards.
He keeps up with all the kids on the playground.
Right. He climbs anything and everything. He swims. He
does it all.
He does everything. And so it may take a little bit longer there, but your child can get there. And again, that's why we recommend therapy, because they're professionals at helping your kid develop those skills that they need.
And we also looked at therapy as we didn't want to wait for a delay to happen. We wanted him to be in therapy before a delay presented itself so that we were on top of it and not playing catch up.
Right.
So in early intervention. By the time Timmy was 3, he was in 4 days a week of therapy for 1 hour all of those 4 days.
As far as eating is concerned,
did Timmy have a hard time eating?
Yes, he did. He was eating baby food from about 6 months, I think.
Yeah, right around 6 months.
Till the time he was about 14 months old. He didn't eat a truly solid food until he was 14 months old.
Right. And as far as the baby food went, we tried to make our own baby food, and that was not even smooth enough for him. I could not blend it to get every single chunk out. As much as I tried to steam extra and blend extra, any tiny little texture that baby food had, and he would projectile vomit across the kitchen.
Let's edit that. So and his very first solid food was mashed potatoes.
Yes, it was.
And it was mashed potatoes for a long time.
It was actually a French fry Portillo's, but that's okay.
Oh, that's right. The very first was, but then after that it was mashed potatoes for months.
Yes.
And again, the texture there. The textures there are very smooth.
Yes.
So, and even today, Timothy struggles to eat meat that has a lot of heavy grains. So, beef that isn't ground. So roasts and things like that, he really struggles with. He really likes, things like ham, which, because there's very little grain in it.
Right. Anything that's really, really moist and super easy to chew, he's good with. But if it's even just a teeny bit dry or tough, he
just
can't do it. He tries.
And he does.
But he just can't do it. As far as eating therapies go, we were in feeding therapy. We did do eating therapy with Timmy when he was little, and mostly that consisted of just putting a whole bunch of food and different textures on his tray and letting him play. The best thing that worked was going out to restaurants, just changing the environment. For some reason, that was where he took his first bite of food, and that helped a lot. That was a recommendation from our feeding therapist. And then we learned a trick from one of our other ACC families, which helps with sensory issues, which was the sniff, kiss, lick, bite method. So first you sniff the food, then you kiss it, then you lick it, and then you can take a bite, but it always ends in a bite. So that just helps your senses get ready to take that new texture in and the new taste, and it worked great. We still use it when he has struggles to eat some things.
Yeah.
Okay, our last question was, is it common to have 2 babies with ACC? We do not have 2 babies with ACC. We're going to start there, and we are not doctors. But it is not common to have 2, although it does happen.
And it's hard to say whether or not it truly is common, because one, ACC is very often not diagnosed or misdiagnosed, but also it's understood that there's a genetic component to ACC, but they're not quite sure how and why. They have not identified a specific gene for this, so it's not like there's a recessive gene or we're a carrier. Obviously there's something that happens genetically, but they're still doing research on it. And what I would say is this: it's not something to worry about, because having a child with ACC, you're going to worry about any child that you have, regardless of any conditions they have or not. So whether or not you have one child with ACC or 2, it's going to be exactly the same as life would be any other way, which is that they're children. Children can be challenging from time to time.
And you're going to love them no matter what.
Yes. And either way, your life will become normal, and you'll adjust to it, and that's not something to be worried about.
If you have any other questions for us or for Timmy, please post them in the comments below. Or if you're on Facebook, find us on the ACC listserv group.
Yeah. We would love to give you any help that we can to help expose you to any resources that you need. So don't be afraid to ask, because there's a giant community out there of people who really want to connect with you and to help. Thanks so much for watching. Again, subscribe to the channel, leave comments and questions for Timmy and for us, and have a nice day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.